Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We're going to talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day. I just went out, seen the movie, came back, and I might have to see it again sometime this weekend, probably on Sunday. But I want to get this off my chest before we start off. Now, this is going to be somewhat spoilers. If you are not interested in the spoilers, please do not watch the vid. I don't want to ruin it for you guys. There's two main things I want to say right now. One is we smoking on anything Steve Lacy because, bro, I didn't hear what you spoiled, but you spoiled the movie for millions of people. And Jesus, bro, stupid. And number two, we need to stop showing too much in the trailer. I love a good trailer. I do. I don't mind if you drop 2-3 trailers, but stop showing the majority of the set pieces that we're going to see. That's one thing I do have a problem with. From what I saw, the majority of those big moments were actually in the trailer. So there wasn't that much to explore outside of that. There wasn't nothing as grand, I would say, right? But let's get into this. So I just want to say this is probably one of my favorite Spider-Man films from Tom Holland. It's very neck and neck with No Way Home because of the fact that that one had, all three Spider-Mans, fight next to each other. It has some nostalgia mixed with it, some fan service. That one's gonna be very hard to beat. Plus, that was up there with like an Avengers movie to me, the way that movie was shot, right? But this one took such a different approach. It'll trick you a little bit because it says Brand New Day, but that doesn't necessarily mean things are gonna be more enlightened or more joyous, right? This takes a much more sad, darker approach. It's about change. It's about adapting to change. It's about growth, a rebirth, so to speak, finding yourself and just having to accept some of the changes. You're so used to certain things and your feelings, you just don't know how to feel. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it fits later on when we explain about Peter in this case, and just how things kind of work with life. And just the way the movie was told, I'm not gonna lie, it was told beautifully. For me, when I go into any of Tom Holland's Spider-Man films, I know they're gonna have their set pieces of action where it makes sense, but I always love the storytelling. We don't appreciate a lot of movies with the storytelling. Don't get me wrong, if you give me an Avengers movie and it's only storytelling with no action, I'm gonna be upset because we understand the blockbuster of what's supposed to happen. In this case, those big moments were the emotional moments, in my opinion. And some of the big set pieces for me were like icing on the cake, where it explains some of the depth. We got to see some of the people in action, but you really get to hone into Peter, just in just a very awkward state, in just a very different state. His arachnid is elevating. So he's getting more, I would say, elevation from the spider side versus his human side. He doesn't know how to control it. He's so used to the way he adapts. His webs become more natural within his body, and his senses were crazy, and he just has to learn to adapt to those changes. Also, the changes within the relationship of him and MJ. And one thing I love that they did in this movie, that they did with Infinity War, was that, the villain won in Infinity War. We all know this. Thanos won that fight, and it ended with him winning that fight. I love that for that. In this case, the movie doesn't cater to us or cater to the majority of fans and makes you see Peter Parker, not Tom Holland, but Peter Parker win MJ at the end or get her memory back. No, she goes within the film and says, she found a letter that he had wrote that in the last movie. She finds it and tells him, was I supposed to see this, whatever? And she goes, I don't have no memory of you, and I don't love you. She has love for him, but she was like, I don't love you. And that doesn't change even towards the end of the film. I love that because, you didn't expect that to happen, and you expected to see them come back together and have this grand old ending. But the ending didn't have to it didn't have to involve her as much. It took more about Peter Parker and Sadie Sink, who did a phenomenal job as Jean Grey. And we're going to get into that too, because there's some stuff on the way they introduced her, which I wish they didn't go about it that way. But nonetheless, phenomenal job, phenomenal acting. I got to give my flowers to Ned in this case, because I've always said Ned holds the glue to both him and MJ and Peter in this relationship. They have friendship and the relationship because he is the guy who went above and beyond for Peter Parker. He goes above for his best friend. And there's some things, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Peter Parker said it, or Dr. Strange said it, somebody, you can break the curse. Yes, they forgot who he was, but there's elements and ways to kind of break what's happening. This world is in destruction. And so there's elements of what happened, and towards the end, there was some clues and Ned was already developing tech, and obviously Peter has to look at it like, oh my God, are you really? And he has tech that actually can help Peter, so they get that bond going. But at the end, he sees him, and I think when MJ introduces Ned to Spider-Man, she accidentally calls him Peter, and Ned goes, wait, his name is Peter? And there's like, for some reason, Ned's ability and what he does, we've seen it with No Way Home. He had the ability to just open up that portal, and not everybody can hone in on the rings or have that ability. You have to be gifted with that. So to see that he was able to do that in that film told me already he's going to be a big role later on in the films. For some reason, in the cycle, he ends up like something has to happen. At the end, Peter sees him and just like does the handshake with him, and he remembers a handshake and goes, Peter. And then the movie ends like he remembers it. So that gave me goosebumps, because I'm like, that was a great way to end the film. It didn't have to be MJ, although I love MJ in the film. It didn't have to be her. It didn't have to be the love coming back. She has a boyfriend. She's dealing with that. And this is him having to battle that. He's expressing to her, I love you so much, and it's hard for me to live my days not having you with me. And he's been saving them throughout the course of these last few years. However, he's dealing with his own personal stuff and having to deal with other people in the films. You know, he goes to Bruce Banner because as he's developing these new emotions and these new feelings and these changes in his body, he doesn't know how to handle it. He goes to Bruce Banner and he's asking Bruce, like, how do you like hold yourself together? He has this gauntlet thing in his arm that controls his temper or whatever. And he's like, can you make that for me? Like, or does it require this? Because remember, Peter's also a genius too. And he ends up building one. And the thing is, Bruce don't really remember him either. So he says, hold on, how do you know about this? Talk to me some more. So the only thing I would say I'm disappointed in was that the trailer showed the fight between him and Hulk, and that was the last we saw of the Hulk. They had a great fight. I don't want to spoil that end fight, but they had a great fight. And I think it was a great display. I would have wished there was some more depth there, but I still loved it nonetheless. Then you have this guy, man, John Bernthal, man, the Punisher. Phenomenal job, phenomenal side character to Peter Parker. And you have to watch the show to understand more of the story. But man, phenomenal acting. It was very funny, their relationship. And again, talking about change, talking about characters having to adapt to new things. We all understand Punisher is the anti-hero in this situation. We all understand that he has his hate and love for what he does. It's more hate, but sometimes he does things out of the good in his heart. And in this case, we've seen him cry, we've seen him happy, we've seen him smiling, and he called Peter his friend. That is not common to hear from the Punisher, bro. Hearing Frank Castle say, like, you're my friend, that got me, bro, because like their acting and the story writing is so damn good. You can't help but like get a little choked up, man. That's what makes me enjoy a movie so much. Again, it's a very different film compared to No Way Home. No Way Home really spoiled everybody with nostalgia, fan service, and jam-packed action, like as if it was an Avengers movie. In this case, you got your set pieces, but it was great introduction to just seeing new relationships being built and what's gonna happen later. Now, we see the relationship with Frank Castle, Spider-Man, cool. MJ and them, they meet, everybody's okay. He went to go help out MJ when she needed some help. Same thing with Ned, because Ned is doing his little investigations on the side. He still plays a huge important role, but he's not always on screen. Again, the movie set piece is about accepting the change, and sometimes you shouldn't bottle it in, because bottling it in, you don't know what's gonna happen to you. So let's move forward. Sadie Sink is Jean Grey, and pretty much her role in here was to find who and where's her sister Sarah Gray, and who the person who's responsible for this. And so the way she's introduced, I'm not sure if I liked how they did it. You know, she's wearing the whole jacket coat kind of thing, and then obviously they reveal the face later. But I love. There's some love and hate though. I'm gonna be honest. I loved the way she was like telepathing into different people. And because it's different. Something's happening to Peter. He doesn't know how to handle that. He knows she can't read my mind, and I can get her out of my head, and I can sense her. But because he's dealing with these changes, this arachnid stuff, where he's becoming more spider oriented, now it was becoming harder for him to now read her telepaths and all this other stuff. But her backstory was crazy. Basically, when her and her sister was kids, when their mom and her sister's name is Sarah Gray, when their mom, I think her name was Elaine Gray or Ellen Gray or something like that, when she realized that her daughters had powers, she gave them up. So they're at a park just sitting in the flashback scene, and pretty much they're like, oh my God, like who could we warp into? And then they see that like this mother and daughter having fun and as a picnic, and they're just reminiscing, and then they're basically going about how they feel about what their mom did to them. Now Sarah's trying to teach her sister how to actually get to a further person. You got to telepath into different people to get to her. So as she's walking, she then suddenly gets trapped by like these SWAT team members. And then all of a sudden, Jean Grey, Sadie Sink, did a phenomenal job. She's running to her, and Sarah goes, I can't allow you to get caught either. So she ends up warping into her and telepath into her. And then she snaps back to normal by the time she's gone. Turns out they killed her sister. They killed her freaking sister, dude. So because they killed her sister, she's like going, well, she don't know yet. She's actually going through some havoc right now. She's trying to find her way. She finds Peter. She finds out his name, where he lives. She finds out that he's Spider-Man. She finds the letter. She does a whole bunch of stuff and basically threatens to get at MJ because she just seen some notes. She's seen some stuff, realizing his secret that he loves MJ. So Peter Parker goes and saves MJ and goes, hey, you got to come with me. But by the time he goes to MJ, she already possesses MJ. So MJ tricks him. And this is what got me. I thought the writing was so bad because I thought this was how it was going to be. So MJ goes, okay, fine, I'll go with you. Just so what you see in the trailer. But when they get to a rooftop, she goes, I got to know you from somewhere because were we something in the past? And he's like falling for it. And I fell for it. Everybody in the theater fell for it. And pretty much he explains to her whatever. And then she goes, I just got to see for myself. So she lifts up the mask and gives him a kiss. I said kiss. A kiss. And mind you, a few things that happened in this movie happened to Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man, the original movie, as well as Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. So I felt like these were callbacks to those. And while kissing, then they hugged. He's crying. And then she goes, it's all right. Hug her, Peter. And that threw me so off. I said, oh, Jean Grey's inside of this girl already. And then purposely throws her off the roof and then warps out of her body. So they went through the scene that Andrew Garfield did, as MJ did with Spider-Man 1, and he has to save her. And pretty much that's how everything starts to unfold. But later on, they're called Damage Control, and I think one of the guy who oversees everyone, his name is Bill Metzger. Okay, so phenomenal actor too. He's in, I think, oh my God, it's the show Severance. Phenomenal show. So he's Bill Metzger. He oversees everything from that team. And pretty much what ends up happening is they capture Jean Grey because Spider-Man helps them kind of neutralize her abilities by putting a chip behind her neck. Now he used that same chip for him, but it was actually going to go out of whack because it's stopping him from his growth. He's growing into a different form of a spider, which is very insane to me because you don't know what's to come later on in any future films, right? Perhaps. So they stopped her, they trapped her, they took her in, and now she's like in this fake room. And in this fake room, she's being interviewed by Bill Metzger, and then he leaves, and then basically they remove the walls from the room and realize she's in a cubicle. And in this cubicle, she's stuck, she's trapped, and now they're trying to take brain samples of her every time, and they're trying to extract whatever that's going on in her. Now she don't have her Phoenix Rising stuff, like she don't got that Phoenix stuff yet, up until she starts to garner so much of her abilities. And I guess when she looked up, she noticed that the vent, and she kept saying, where's my sister? Where's my sister? What's VRAM? She was looking for something called VRAM. When she looked up at the vent, she's like, my sister's here at VRAM. Where is it? He kept saying, I don't know. When she looked up, there was a piece of tape that was covering the name. It's called VentRAM or something like that in that department. She realized they killed my sister. So she called him a murderer. And in that vent, she ended up garnering the ability to absorb him through the vent. She went up through the vent, like her ability, and absorbed the person that was controlling the computer. And Bill was like, yo, make it stop, because she's causing like this crazy chaos in there. And he stops Bill from shutting down the computer because she possessed him. And all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. And she breaks through with this ability, and half of the world, half of New York is like in a glitchy state, very similar to the Spider-Verse movie, which is why I feel like that's going to integrate to something later. You never know. And it glitches out Spider-Man and John Bernthal, of course, Frank Castle, ends up having to go there. Spider-Man tries to save her, but she's like, I don't want to hear it. You're the reason why I'm here. Once Spider-Man gets to where he needs to get to, all of a sudden, Jean Grey possessed all the ninjas, I guess the assassins and stuff, the ninja assassin group, and basically orders them, she controls them to go fight Peter Parker. And that's when he got his ass whooped, but he had to hone into his inner self. And when he realized he has to be who he is, he has to control who he is, he removed the chip. He started feeling how he felt. And even though that arachnid was elevating, he had to grow into that and fight that control. And he whooped their ass. That fight scene was phenomenal. One thing I got to give that movie is they knew the cinematography and the CGI, the way they meshed it together, chef's kiss. They knew how to mesh that together. That fight scene was phenomenal. And we seen abilities on him I ain't never seen. But there's one thing I'll say. This movie felt like a video game, and I feel like Insomniac had something to do with it. They had to. The way they formed the story together felt like it's a video game movie rather than its own standalone movie, and I'm not too mad at that. You know, I'm not too upset with that. Now, moving past that, he gets into the room where Sadie, well, I don't want to say Sadie Sink, but Jean Grey is, and says, I'm very sorry, I didn't mean to, and I just want to help you. So she's looking at him, and she grabs him. And she goes, I'm gonna possess you, like I'm a telepath to you. He goes, go ahead. But when she does, pretty much Aunt May is in his memory. And she's basically giving some advice to her nephew, Peter Parker. And she's basically saying, like, you know, you gotta let yourself be. You have to allow your growth. You can't contain this. And sometimes there's some things that are uncomfortable about your life. You need to grow from that and know that you don't have to cause hurt in this world. When you save one person, you save everyone. That's the quote at the end. And so now Peter Parker's no longer sitting in that seat in the memory. It's Jean Grey. And Aunt May's talking to her about her sister and how, like, you don't want to hurt everybody because of what one person did to her. You know, you need to show that you are great and you're this. And so all these things are now changing her. And when she finally gets out of Peter, she realizes, like, man, Peter's heart, man, has good. And she's like, I'm sorry you had to go through that too. But in the midst of that, you hear a bullet and he breaks out of his mind. And all of a sudden, he grabs Jean Grey and turns, and a 50 cal hits him right in the back. Frank Castle accidentally shot. Well, no, he shot at Jean Grey, but Spider-Man took the hit. And he knew he fucked up. Like, he knew it. So what ends up happening, he drags him to the hospital. And what's so crazy to me that they showed was there was a pool of blood under Spider-Man. I was shocked they showed that. They showed a pool of blood under him. And so they dragged him in, and Jean Grey used her abilities as the Phoenix to help rise him again and to give him life, because if not, he would have died. You know, that you ain't escaping that bullet. Frank Castle don't shoot to chill. He shoots to kill. You know what I'm saying? So he wakes up from the hospital, and pretty much, you know, Frank Castle's there. And that's when they had that little talk, and you realize he's crying, and he's like, you know, you're a friend, and he cares about him. And he goes, you can get out the hospital. There's a whole bunch of fans outside, but I got you. He plays as Spider-Man while Peter's walking outside. And this little kid, adorable, notices him and like messes with him as if he knows he's Spider-Man. And pretty much the movie ends in that kind of note, with also him entering the store and seeing Ned there. And that's when he goes up to him and he goes, wait, you're the flower guy who came to the party. And when he goes, hey, my name is Peter, he goes, Peter, oh. He did the handshake and then did that handshake, the best friend shake. And he said, Peter. And basically the movie ends. But there was a second scene that happened at the end of this long ass damn clip. Man, oh man. Ned's device sensed another Spider-Man. Another Spider-Man, y'all. It sensed another Spider-Man in another planet. Oh my goodness, bro. And then it says Spider-Man will return. I was so happy because we don't know if it's Miles Morales. That was a first thought, but also because of Ned and him having, when he had the rings on him before and he was able to open up that portal, he is such a genius as well. We don't know what he can potentially do. We know that Sadie Sink is going to be in Secret Wars, but we truly don't know if Peter Parker's making a show in Doomsday. We don't know. If things take place in New York somewhere, there's no way Spider-Man won't be around, but we don't know what's going to happen. Sadie Sink or Jean Grey as well. She leaves. She's on a train leaving somewhere. I got a feeling she's going to the X-Men. You know, so there's so much that can happen. I'm so excited, bro. I'm so excited. My bad if I'm babbling on about it, but you have to go about it with these reviews. You have to explain yourself, you know? Oh my God, this movie was amazing. I loved it. I loved every second of it, man. If I can, you know, grow while doing some movie stuff, man, I would love to. You guys need to watch it. There was much more that happened, but man, emotional. Bro, emotional. I felt that shit. Like, I almost teared up in certain scenes because, man, Tom Holland did a phenomenal job with his face expression. There was some funny ass parts, man. But man, that emotion that he felt and looking at like MJ, and you could tell MJ's not an afterthought. You just have to accept, bro, she doesn't know you yet. And you still got a lot to give. And so at the end, I don't want to act like as if I forgot about her. There was a NYPD captain there. Her name was DeWolf. I think her name was Jean DeWolf. And obviously, she's telling Spider-Man throughout the movie, like, you gotta take it easy. You're catching headaches. You gotta find yourself. Take it easy. You don't always have to do things alone and stuff. And at the end, he basically calls her and goes, I don't think I have to do this alone anymore. And so now that opens up the opportunity of other beings being with him, like Frank Castle, Daredevil, Jean Grey, who knows, Gwyneth, Silk, many people. So you never know what can happen. So I'm excited to see that. This movie, for me, I loved it. I would give it like a nice like 9.5 out of 10. I swear to God, storytelling alone, it was great. I do feel like there was like in the beginning had like a little bit of rush sequences because he fights Scorpion and he fights this other guy. He's like an albino dude, but there's no depth with their characters. And the fact that he fights Scorpion, he wasn't really a main character in the movie. I feel like the main character, the main villains was everyone themselves, like holding in themselves and not being their true form, not being their true selves. Because Peter Parker at some point had some violent moments, you know, of almost killing people. Like he had some violence. He hurt a cop by accident. So yeah, I wish they could have went more in depth, but Scorpion's not a big role in that movie at all. In fact, the next scene that they showed in the trailer, which they shouldn't have, is when he goes, "You think I'm Scorpion?" That's basically Jean Grey saying it because she took possession of him. She telepathed into him. So there was a lot that's going on. I love the movie. I need to see it again. And I just really hope you guys enjoy these type of videos. If you are chilling tonight, it's gonna be a late upload, but I love you guys so much, and I will catch you on another movie review somewhere sometime around the, you know, maybe I'll do the Odyssey next. But I love you guys so much. I'm out of here. God bless. Let me know what you think of Spider-Man. Brand new day. Peace.